We have developed speed, but we have shut ourselves in. Machinery that gives abundance has left us in want. We think too much and feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity.
We know the air is unfit to breathe and our food is unfit to eat. As if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy.
Silence! The great and powerful Oz knows why you have come.
You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value.
You have meddled with the primal forces of nature.
Don't give yourselves to brutes, men who despise you, enslave you, who regiment your lives, tell you what to do, what to think, or what to feel, who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle, use you as cannon fodder. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men with machine minds and machine hearts.
It's time to buckle up for making sense of the madness.
And who loves you? And who do you love?
Hey everybody, Jason Bermas here, and it's time to talk dire wolves. So I've waited a little while to weigh in on this story regarding the quote-unquote resurrection of a species that has been allegedly extinct on this planet for 10,000 years. Now, why do I say allegedly? Well, first of all, I always talk about this, the carbon dating system, the fact, I don't necessarily trust the science, the fact that when we're talking about nature, we don't really know about holdouts. And when you dig deeper into what these creatures that have now been created by this quote-unquote private company, okay, another thing that we're going to discuss, because I truly do believe that this is now an extension of the military-industrial complex getting ready to commercialize not just the resurrection, if you will, of species, but to legitimize and normalize genetic engineering of species that will be let into the wild. It's what really this is about. There's a lot of ooh and ah moments, but the truth of the matter is, just getting back to the carbon dating aspect of this alone, this creature is really a development of man-made science, artificial intelligence, and two specific pieces of genetic material. One, a tooth that I believe dates back 13,000 years, again, according to these people that have engineered now 3 of these, and a skull that was held by a museum that they drilled into that is allegedly 73,000 years old. Now think about that. I often talk about human beings and quote-unquote microevolution within our species. And I also talk about the fact that who knows, what we were or who we were or how we acted hundreds of years ago, let alone thousands or tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of years ago. But I don't necessarily think that our story has been told. But in the aspect of microevolution, just think about that. That's a 60,000 year gap. I encourage anybody who has not done this to do this. Go visit a historical site where you visit the home or the quarters, if you will, if you go on like a ship or something like that, of people who are around in the 17 and 1800s. They are physically much smaller. I mean, those are just the physical aspects of that. So genetically, a 60,000 year gap is pretty big. And then you got the dicka-dicka-do magic of filling in these genetic gaps, if you will, via artificial intelligence. Now, before I get into a multitude of different experimentation that we know of way before this, and later on I'm going to go all the way into Dolly, and we're going to get into the dire wolf story itself. Before we do any of that, we have to ask ourselves specifically, okay, what is happening here? And what has happened in the past via black projects and our military-industrial complex? Today, we are specifically going to be covering biogenetics and altered mutations along the lines of what we know publicly as CRISPR technology. But I would be remiss if I did not remind people that when we were discussing a lot of this same technology, okay, all the way back in 2001 in that Future Strategic Warfare NASA document, we were talking about genomically changing not just animals and bugs to release them and use them as surveillance devices, by the way, when we're talking about insects. But we were also talking about incorporating the cybernetics. And one of the things that always sticks out in my mind in that document is the fact they talk about taking the brain of a jellyfish out of the body of that jellyfish and instead putting it into a robot and creating this cyborg that was controlled by the jellyfish's brain. It's 25 plus years ago, what they let us know about. Okay? And we'll probably reiterate that a little later on with Dolly. Now, we're also going to watch like the 7-minute timepiece that's, trying to ask the ethical questions on top of it, but really it's a puff piece to advertise these things, along the lines of a Hollyweird rollout, okay? So before we get any further and we look at a bunch of these stories, I need you to thumbs it up, subscribe, share, check out all the alt platforms. And again, the paid gigs are over. I want to keep this my job. I want to deliver news that you're not seeing anywhere else and really stuff that you're not hearing about even in the alternative media enough. So $5, $10, $15, big donors, you do mean the world to me. The Buy Me a Coffee is down below with other methods to donate. Let's get into it. So I've been talking about this for a very long time. I always remind people that, all the way back in the InfoWars days, this is a 2013 story, but honestly, this happened like 2008, 2009, that they were taking, again, jellyfish DNA. They seem to like jellyfish DNA and incorporating it into pigs so that they glowed in the dark. Apparently, that is a genetic trait that they like to publicly show that they can take from one species and put it into another, creating a quote-unquote chimera, okay? So these chimeric objects have been around forever. And look, the general public's global imagination has been captivated with this topic since, bare minimum, Jurassic Park, right? And I still remember the first I saw Jurassic Park in the theaters, 1994. And I still remember when they do the scene where they explain how they take the genetic material from these mosquitoes that are in sap, and then the genetic code that they don't have, they implement frog DNA. Right? Later on in the series, they talk about how they really should have made them look like birds, but these were not real representations. They were what the public's persona was. They wanted to encourage that. That's a whole nother video. Okay? But it stuck out, that section, not only because of the science, but because it's on like this old school projector and with like an old school, like my generation, what we watched when we were watching, like learning. And I remember going to the nuclear power plant in the Hudson Valley. Okay, there was one in New York. And we're us being in a situation where we watched something extremely similar. And it wasn't lost on me that even The Simpsons parodied that. Okay? So that aspect of it really nailed it home in my brain. But the Jurassic Park franchise has become an utter phenomenon. So when we think about these things, and even the company that did this with the dire wolves, right? They're talking about resurrecting things like the woolly mammoth, aka something that is quote unquote prehistoric. Okay? So let's keep going down the line and this is a minimum. These are small. First human pig chimeras created, sparking hopes for transplantable organs. This is in 2017. Now, again, this was public stuff. If you don't think that they've been doing this for decade upon decade upon decade upon decade in black programs, not just in this country and beyond, you're not paying attention. Now, the reason I highlighted that in particular was not just going pig to pig, but on this broadcast, what we talk about xenotransplantation a lot, right? And xenotransplantation is this idea that you grow an organ inside of a pig, a human organ that is used to be transplantable. And United Therapeutics is at the head of that. They've gotten the FDA approval. They've tried to do it with humans. It has been unsuccessful so far in this commercialized form. And it is run by Martine Rothblatt, the most powerful transgender / transhumanist out there. I mean, maybe not the most powerful transhumanist, but you get what I'm saying if you followed this broadcast, okay? So another scientific admission, these aren't really breakthroughs, was 2021, where this international team created its first chimeric human monkey embryos. Come on now. Now think about that. We've already got talks of the CCP mutating human beings for traits that are supposedly going to make them stronger, more intelligent, etc. When you're talking about human and chimpanzee or primate genetics, the physical strength and the muscle density change is huge. I mean, a chimp will rip you apart. So again, this is the stuff that's been admitted for years. So let's keep going. One of the other things that they're doing with these days are they're taking stem cells from human beings and they're creating, again, we're keeping this out of the realm of cybernetics for the most part, but these new things called organoids are 3D brain computers. And there's something that NASA is working on. Okay? That is something I talked about with Greg Autry when he came on the broadcast. Bioengineering, geoengineering, all these things incorporate NASA and the Defense Department. And that's really when, and we're getting into the dire wolves soon. But that's something that is so key when we're talking about these rollouts, all right? So I just want to show this. This is a monkey with 2 sets of DNA. And you know what really bothers me after they do this and they create these things? Now, the dire wolves are supposedly on some secret hideaway where they're on some preserve or whatever. They euthanized this bad boy. And again, they created fluorescent eyes and fingertips with this. And they can't call it a breakthrough, but again, this is something they've been doing for a long time. This one's actually written by Jordan Peterson. The ever-important Jordan Peterson, writing for Vice a couple of years back. Not even a couple of years back. Just crazy. So again, first of all, I just want to say this. We don't know, exactly what's going on with these dire wolves or any of this stuff. Scientists created a chimeric mouse using billion-year-old genes that predate animals. They're mad scientists, and they're rolling it out. All right? And you can't really trust anything that they're doing. And I just wanted to get into the viral aspect of this. We talk about chimeras. HIV mRNAs generated through aberrant splicing in HIV-1 latency infected resting CD4 plus T cells. I'm not going to tackle that, but think about the hate and lie shots. Think about the HIV aspect. Think about the virus itself. Think about the HIV aspect. And think about the idea of biowarfare utilizing agents that compromise your immune system. Again, it's a broad range of research and implementation. I had to bring that up as well. So let's take a look at this guy. Ben Lamb is the man behind this company that has now resurrected the the direwolf, allegedly. Colossal Biosciences. And, you know, you look at this, you go all the way back to 2004, where he really gets going. And Simply Interactive, I just took a look at that company. Boy, oh boy. This guy has been embedded with not just tech and science and bio people, but big-time Hollywood investors that we're going to get into, and the Defense Department. And that's really what we have to understand, is that this being commercialized and with this level of success, whether directly involved or on the peripheral, you better believe the Defense Department is involved in this. So check this out. Why creating a company to resurrect the woolly mammoth makes perfect sense for Ben Lamb. So you just scroll down to the second paragraph right here. Before Lamb started working on reviving prehistoric animals, he was engaged in more future-focused projects. From starting his first company when he was still in college, they love to get you in college, to co-founding a company that completed projects for the likes of Starbucks, Best Buy, and Microsoft. Lamb has dabbled, I bet he has, across a variety of endeavors. The U.S. Department of Defense and the U.S. Space Force have even used technology from one of Lamb's former companies. You don't say. The old DOD and Space Department. And this is where I wanted to bring it kind of full circle before we hit this video, which we're going to start and stop and really be breaking down. I remember Dolly the sheep, right? And again, cloning, and it was a big deal as the first mammal clone. This is the cover of Time magazine, and again, this piece we're going to be watching is from Time, and on the bottom here, it's taken up, and it says, "Will there ever be another you? Will there be another you?" Now, the cover of Newsweek was asking, "Can we clone humans at that point?" And that's the inside. Little lamb, who made thee? Right? So, when I talked about Holly Weirdos, to resurrect this wolf, George R.R. Martin was invested in this company. Even Peter Jackson was invested in this company. So I want to get into this Time magazine piece now on the resurrection of the direwolf.
The howl of a dire wolf hasn't been heard on planet Earth for more than 10,000 years. That's because the species is extinct, or was. Colossal Biosciences is a Dallas-based company that's using genetic engineering to de-extinct long-gone species. And this is the first time Colossal's dire wolf pups, who are now 6 months old, have been seen by the public. Hey Ben, it's Jeff Kluger from Time Magazine. A pleasure to meet you. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about what the goal is for de-extincting and rewilding ultimately. Why are you doing this work?
became abundantly clear that we need new tools and technologies for conservation. And so we thought this was a really cool way that we could create value, create impact, inspire people, and then also hopefully thoughtfully rewild some of these species, which apparently will also have ecological benefits to these different potential ecosystems.
To try and do that.
So let's just stop there. Like right out of the gates, rewild species? Isn't that going away from natural selection? Now, on Rogan, he says, well, humans are so disruptive. Look what we've caused. Now we're bringing them back. I'm not so sure I'm in that camp, because these aren't the original animals. And again, we're talking about a 10,000-year gap, even if they were.
Colossal needed to understand dire wolves at a genetic level. The company has documented the process from the beginning and shared this footage with Time for a cover story. So can you tell me a little bit about what went into engineering the dire wolf?
We extracted DNA from 2 fossils that we knew from previous work had some amount of preserved ancient DNA. One was a 13,000-year-old bone, and the other was a 72,000-year-old bone, an inner ear bone. We were able to generate 2 genomes, 2 direwolf genome sequences from that, which we then compared to all the other wolves for which there's already been data generated. And when we do that, we want to figure out where it is that these 2 dire wolves are similar to each other, but different from the other wolves that are out there. And so we come up with this list of genes where they're distinct. Now, our goal in the dire wolf project, just like with all de-extinction projects, is to re-engineer the core traits, the core characteristics that made these extinct species unique and able to fill whatever role that they filled in their ecosystems when they were still alive.
And let me just say this. I mean, this is absolutely incredible. But at the same time, there's a lot of guesswork. All right? And there's a lot of like hokum type, dicka-dicka-doo magic when it's talking about keeping their traits. Again, the 2 samples are 60,000 years old. And I'm not even saying they actually are, but by their measurement system.
Using this knowledge, Colossal then made 20 modifications to 14 genes in the DNA of common gray wolf cells. These relatively few tweaks to the genetic code produce some big differences. The dire wolf's white coat, large size, characteristic vocalizations like that howling you heard at the beginning of the story, and more. That DNA was transferred to denucleated egg cells, meaning cells without their own genetic material, and then developed into embryos and were then implanted in the wombs of surrogate mothers, who were hound mixed dogs.
We didn't know how big these embryos would grow and wanted to make sure that the surrogate was healthy. So we picked large dogs.
Romulus and Remus, named after the Roman mythological twin brothers who were raised by a wolf, were born on October 1st, 2024.
You gotta love the mythology that they always put in here too.
And in January, they were joined by a younger sister that the Colossal team named Khaleesi. Each wolf is on track to grow to as large as 6 feet long and 150 pounds. Colossal isn't planning to reintroduce them to the wild. Instead, the 3 dire wolves will live out their lives on a fenced 2,000-acre preserve. Colossal does not want to disclose this location in order to protect the animals.
I think these are the luckiest animals ever. They will live their entire life on this protected ecological reserve where they have all sorts of space and they have natural denning environment and they have an inclement weather hut that they can go and hide out in if they need to.
So once again, I don't know if you're calling them, I don't know, animals, lucky. I get it. Like, I have a dog and I love that dog and he's derived from wolves and we say lucky dogs. But when we're talking about something that, like, supposed to be in nature, is not a domesticated creature, the fact that it's not in the wild, I mean, all these people talk about zoos, etc., and I hear them. I understand where they're coming from. At the same time, the desire to learn and understand, I also understand that as well. And that's, I guess that's where the gray area comes, and really that ethical battle emerges. Let's continue on.
They have 24-hour veterinary care.
Dire wolves aren't the only species on Colossal's de-extinction agenda.
An American company says it has genetically engineered mice so that they have developed some traits like mammoths.
A small but potentially important step in a quest to eventually bring back the prehistoric woolly mammoth.
They hope to de-extinct the woolly mammoth as early as 2028. The company is also hoping to bring back the dodo and the Tasmanian tiger. If some of this genetic tinkering feels familiar, it's because Hollywood has been here first. And spoiler alert, we all know that didn't end well.
Let's just stop it right there. Hollywood has been here first because they are a mouthpiece for the agenda time and time and time again. And Michael Crichton, who wrote the original series, was very, very aware of the dangers of the military-industrial complex and a very large critic of that before his passing. Just want to put that out there. Folks, I need your help. Again, without you, I'm not going to be able to do this. So please, please, please consider buying me a coffee. $5, $10, $15. It does mean the world to me. The Venmo, the PayPal is down below. I do want to thank people that have made donations that way as well. Look, again, we're talking about issues that go beyond traditional left or right politics, beyond administrations. Well, a lot of people are Trump this, MAGA that, libtard this, pussy hat that. We're doing other things here with the Bermas Brigade. So I want to thank you for continuing to support me. Couldn't do it without you. As always, you know the drill. It is not about left or right. It is always about right and wrong. I absolutely love you guys, and we'll see you on the flip side.